So I'm going to kind of talk a little bit more about the connections because we're going to start really having to deal with this. So when you see, I'm going to take these fingers off. So you see a giant tree like this. They keep connecting, but they're stepping. The elbow has all the control, the hand has the second most control, the index finger, one, has second least, and the very tip has only control over itself. So you can kind of see that chain reaction. But then there's a separation when we get to the hand. If we select these guys, and we're going to reattach it to the hand, not the fingers. The hand has control over all the fingers. The fingers only have control over their own separate finger pieces. So you can kind of see those connections here. They're all of them are connected back to the hand, but none of the fingers are connected to the other fingers. We can actually do that by accident. So let me say connect it this way. Now the hand still has control over all the fingers, but the index fingers have control over the other fingers. So if I select this one, they all move. If I select the tip of my finger, they all still kind of move, and the pivot point's is in a very weird spot. So you have to be very aware of how they are connected. I'm going to take all my geometry and I'm going to kind of select them all. I'm going to create a group node underneath it. When I have them all selected, they're put under a group node. I'm going to call this one Geo. And I'm going to kind of go over group nodes. So as you can see, this group node is helping me organize all my geometry under one little node. So one way to use a group node is for that. The group nodes help organize. You hit Control G, it creates what they call a null. I technically don't know why they call a null. I at one point knew why, but there's really no point. There's no real reason to have to know it. But as you can see, you can move a group node around. But as soon as you deselect it, you cannot select that node. You have to come back in here and to select it. You can connect things to it. So if I say the forearm, if I hit up, I can actually get to the group node that way. So that's another way to get to a group node. So you can use the pivot point to move things around. So it's an extra pivot point. Another thing I use the group node to do is to create a new rotation to something. And I'm going to go into that a little bit later. Actually, I can kind of do that now, since we're kind of talking about it. Let's create I'm going to create a cylinder. This is a quick little. So right now, if I spin it on the Y, it actually will work pretty well. Nope. So you can see I can't spin it, say, on that disc. As you can see, that's not what that's kind of problematic. I'm going to make it 45 just so I can nail it exactly. So say I want to actually spin it in that perfectly 45 degrees and a nice, like, kind of like a driving steering wheel. Well, right now I can't because of how Maya is setting things up. I'm going to freeze it out just to make sure everything's zeroed out. So you definitely can't. Often this is what you get. Everything's based off the world. So you can spin it that way, or spin it that way to get that really bad wobble. But you can change the alignment of this, and it's by using the group node. I'm going to take that group node, I'm going to snap it to the center of this guy, but you can still see the pivot point is still set to the world. I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees. You often don't know the exact rotation. Often you're sitting there kind of like eyeing them, like, is that going to work? That looks good enough. It's straight enough. It should spin well enough. I'm going to call this one CP, change pivot, wheel. So that's at a good angle, but it still does nothing for the geometry. attach the geometry to that, and then it's still set at that really bad angle, but there's been information tossed in here. If you freeze it out, you can now come back to the geometry and spin it on the Y, which is the Z. Interesting. So it now works at that angle. I'm going to double click on this. It's on local. Wow, Gimbal actually sets it back to the world. Interesting. I can go over that later. So now if I want to spin it on the Z, on the Y, I easily can, and then it spins perfectly. And it only spins on that one axis. I don't know why when I select it, it actually is working. And if you look at the curves, they don't really look like they're working very well. But it does work. If you actually select the Y, middle mouse click in here and drag, you'll get that spin that you're looking for. So you can see the group nodes also used to change the orientation pivot point. And so you can have an object set to 0, 0, 0 and have it at a nice angle if you want to spin it at that axis. Alright, so that's group nodes. In the next video, I'm going to have these controls manipulate these geometry, the geometry. We no longer need the steering wheel setup, so I'm going to